I'm the mother of Ryan White, but I'm also the mother of a beautiful daughter, Andrea, who a lot of times have been left out of our story, but is the apple of my eye, and she's my best friend in the whole world. She is a 6th grade school teacher. I was just very fortunate to raise 2 beautiful children, and they've just been a delight in my life. I'm just a mom. I'm a mom that, because of a misunderstood disease called AIDS, my life changed overnight. If you'd ever told me that I would be speaking in front of anybody when I was in high school, I would have said you were crazy. I took 4 F's in high school because I would never give an oral book report. I've always been very insecure. I've always had a weight problem. I always felt like people were talking about me. And even when I was working at General Motors, which I worked at for 23 years before I took a buyout, I never wanted to miss work because it seemed like every time somebody missed work, they would talk about that person. And I didn't know they were talking about me. And because of the love of your children, you can do a lot of things that you never thought you could. And this is one mom that at least tried. My son Ryan White was diagnosed with AIDS in 1984. I will fill in a lot of the gaps through Ryan's story that the doctor talked about. But he was diagnosed in 1984. He was one of the first children and first hemophiliacs to come down with AIDS. And at that time, there was no education on AIDS, and people thought you had to do something bad or wrong to get the disease, otherwise you didn't get it. There was no education, so people felt like kissing, tears, sweat, and saliva spreaded AIDS, and people panicked. People would accuse us of maybe spreading AIDS by fleas because we had 2 dogs and we had a cat, and they thought that mosquitoes could transmit AIDS. And so we definitely felt the discrimination that was bestowed on so many people that was infected with this disease. And it was hard as a mom. It was something that I just never felt like I would ever have to deal with because me as a mom, I just felt like I was a General Motors. We were always called Delco Dollies, really, because we always just got married and had our kids. But as a mom, that's all I ever wanted to be. I did not want to be a spokesperson. But at the same time, I was so proud to follow my son around when he was campaigning for education for this disease. When Ryan died, I did not ever think my son would die. I had always thought that somehow, some way, he was going to beat AIDS. I thought somehow, if I keep praying hard enough, that somehow, some way, he's going to beat this disease. And in 1990, when Ryan finally passed away after living 5.5 years with AIDS, and that was a very long time to live with AIDS at the time, especially being diagnosed with a T-cell count of only 25 when he was first diagnosed. But I thought my world had come to an end. While he was very ill, right before he passed away, there was this first introduction of a bill for people with AIDS. It was called the CARE Act. And at that time, Elton John was at the hospital, and we get a phone call from Senator Kennedy. And Elton was kind of judging who to talk to and who not to talk to because there was so much media going on at the hospital. He said, "Jeannie, I think you should take this one." It was Senator Kennedy. He said, "You know, nobody has given so much attention to this disease." He said, "For the first time, we have people actually caring about this disease." He said, "We would like to name this bill the Ryan White Care Act." And at the time, I just thought, oh, that would be nice. I mean, I never ever realized that 20 years later, we all be sitting in a room and still talking about the disease AIDS to begin with, but also the Ryan White Care Act. And after my son passed away, I kind of forgot about it. I didn't think too much more about it. And it was several weeks after Ryan's death, I get another call. It was from Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy said, "We're having some first hearings on the Ryan White Care Act. We would like for you to come to D.C. I said, "No, that's okay." I said, "Ryan used to do that, not me." He said, "No, we really need your voice." I said, "I know nothing about the government, I said, I'm not smart enough. I'm afraid I would hurt the cause more than help the cause. He said, well, think about it, okay? So my friends from AMFAR, who I met all along the way, who helped me get through this whole ordeal, they kept saying, you know, we want to go there with you. We will be with you. We know about the bill. Please, for us, please go to D.C. I just still kept saying no. I just felt like, you know, it was too soon after Ryan's passing. I was afraid I'd make a fool out of myself. But I get a call from Senator Hatch. Senator Hatch called me. He said, Jeanne, he said, we have 25 senators lined up for you. He said, we're not taking no for an answer. He said, all we want you to do is be a mom. He said, tell these senators what it was like to have to watch your son live and die from AIDS. I tell you, I went to D.C. I didn't feel like I did great, but for the first time, I felt like just maybe I had something to contribute to this disease. And also, I felt like it was great therapy. It was something that I definitely knew something about, that I lived it. I lived it and I seen the pain and suffering of all the moms and dads out there, what they were going through too. It wasn't just about Jeannie and Ryan and our family. It was so many other families, and you're not going to hear their stories told. But I got to see these people. So I started speaking. And it was a nervous wreck. And I can remember a speaking agency contacting me and sending me these Susan Summer tapes and all these professional people, you know, about how to speak and how to put in jokes and all this. And I said, oh, I can't do this. And I said, the only way I could ever do this is to tell my story. I said, I live my story. I don't ever have to worry about getting messed up. So that's the only way I can do it. So here I am today. I'm just going to tell you one story of this AIDS epidemic. My son, Ryan White, when this girl was pregnant, I was the most excited person in the whole world. I would have 7 or 8 kids if that would have been possible, because I wanted so many children. I felt like I had the best mom in the whole world, and I wanted to be that mom. But right after Ryan was born, he was circumcised. He was circumcised, and he started bleeding, and they couldn't get him to stop. Hemophilia had never been in our family before. But at the same time, they stitched him, they put ointments on him, and all this, trying to get him to stop bleeding. Finally, they decided that he had something wrong. So they transferred him to a Methodist hospital in Indianapolis. And the hematologist called me, and he said, your son is a severe hemophiliac. He has less than 1% clotting. They said, you know, that if he's ever in a car accident, the chances of him living will be almost 0, because he will bleed faster than what they could ever put blood into him. I was just petrified. They said, you know, he'll never be able to have any major surgeries. He'll never be able to play contact sports. And me, I was just like, oh my gosh. And then he said, now I want to tell you the good news. He said, we have this drug called Factor VIII. It's not approved by the Food and Drug Administration yet, but we feel like it's going to be signed any day. He said, with your permission, we would like to give it to your son. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they told me all this bad news, and already they've got something good. He said, we feel like Factor VIII will enable hemophiliacs to live almost a normal life. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a godsend. And I tell you, and it was. Ryan would be put in the hospital during his young years. Every time he needed a cut himself or had a hip bleed or an arm bleed or so forth, I never did the football helmets and all that like was recommended. I always wanted Ryan to be able to know what he could do. And then so if he couldn't do it, then he couldn't do it no more. I mean, that's just the way. I didn't want to treat him really like a sissy or a baby. I just wanted him to grow up to be as normal as possible with, yes, maybe a little handicap, but something that you could fight through. Well, when he was 3 years old, because I worked for General Motors and I had great insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they put him on a program where he got at the doctor's office twice a week. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's really going to make our lives easy. You know, he's not going to have to go in the hospital all the time. Well, when he was 5 years old, they asked me if I wanted to learn how to give IVs. And I thought, oh, that's even going to make our life even better. going to be the drug that took his life. Because yes, it contained the HIV virus. So Ryan dealt with hemophilia. I can remember at 9 years old though, he come to me, he said, Mom, I want to play Little League. I said, oh, Ryan. I said, I don't know about that. He goes, Mom, please. He said, everybody's playing Little League. He goes, you know, I just want to play Little League, okay? Well, I said, okay, we'll see how we do. Well, he played for 2 years. He wasn't very good. He didn't get to play very much. But by golly, he thought he was something because at least he was on a team. Well, Mom wasn't there one practice, and he got hit in the nose, and he had a bloody nose. And Ryan said, Mom, I think I won't play Little League no more. So we kind of dealt with things. It wasn't easy, but at the same time, we just felt like, you know, he was always really smart. I think that was one of the things. He was smarter than even Mom. Mom couldn't even help him sometimes. I remember the school one time calling me, saying they wanted to talk to me, and I thought, what's he done? Well, the teacher, I went to school, and she said, well, we thought Ryan was cheating. She said, but what he was doing is he's getting done far sooner than anybody else, and he was looking at everybody else's paper to see how soon they'd be done. He said, would it be all right? She said, would it be all right if I give him extra work? And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, because I knew Ryan was really smart, and I couldn't imagine him cheating. But then in 1984, our nightmare started. In 1984, Ryan was sick the whole year. I had him to the doctor all the time. They kept saying there's a lot of colds and flu going around. They said, you know, that's just all it is. And he'd get a little bit better. Then he'd get sick again. It just seemed like that whole year was a nightmare. And in November 30th of 1984, we went to hemophilia clinic, which once a year, hemophiliacs go to clinic. They see a bone specialist, they see a dentist, and it's a complete evaluation. And I get a call the 1st of December, and they said, Mrs. White, are you aware Ryan has had hepatitis within the last year? And I thought, well, that's why he's been so sick. Boy, what a month of December I had. Ryan turned 13 on December the 6th, and like most kids, yeah, for 13, it's kind of special. We had a birthday party. And then it was just a few days later, he got off the school bus, he came in the house. He said, Mom, you've got to do something. He said, I can't even get off the school bus without being tired. He said, we had to run a lap today at school. And he said, the teacher got real upset. He said, Mom, I couldn't finish. He goes, Mom, I don't understand what's wrong with me. Then just a couple of days later, the fever started. The 104, the 105 fevers. They put him in the hospital, and he was diagnosed with pneumonia in both lungs. They started treating him for bacterial pneumonia, and he never got any better. They kept coming in and pounding on his chest and saying, Ryan, if you want to get better, you've got to cough that stuff up. Ryan, just totally exhausted, said, Mom, why won't they listen? There is nothing down there to cough up. Well, he was on almost 100% oxygen. They decided to transfer him by ambulance to Riley Hospital for Children. There in the emergency room, infectious disease doctor met me. It was Dr. Kleiman. He said, we feel Ryan has TB, cancer, or possibly AIDS. Well, I didn't know anything about AIDS, but I thought, well, I've never heard that before, except I heard people died from it, but I thought, that isn't what Ryan had.